So now we have the colour developer section, and we'll start with the first image, which is called Bath Street. And once again, compositionally, I can move in from the left hand side and I can follow the brick buildings all the way along as part of that composition. Also, I've got on the right hand side, I've got darker buildings, so once again you're forcing me down that viewpoint. I think that you've done quite a reasonable job. Looks like fairly bright, contrasty day. You can see that with the lack of clouds that are in the sky, and I think that you've controlled the highlights reasonably well. There's nothing burnt out as part of the scene. As part of that kind of central composition, I can move from post to post or along the yellow no parking line all the way through to the end of the scene. As much as you've presented that, I think for me, absolutely, it's a very accurate record of what you've seen. I probably didn't find it as compositionally strong as some of the other images. I've already mentioned it once about, one thing about winning competitions is being able to present an image to a judge where you keep going back, or you want the judge to keep going back and looking at the image as well, and it has that kind of instant impact. I think for me, even though that you forced me down that viewpoint, when I get to the end, is there anything there to keep my attention? Unfortunately, it looks like that there are, a few lamps in the distance, possibly a lifeboat station or some other kind of building, and also you've got cars in the car park as well. I wondered how it would look at a slightly different time of year, the same street. So you've got a plant, kind of a third in as part of growing on the building. Possibly if you'd have just taken, turn yourself 90 degrees, maybe shown me the attractive door and the doorway and the lamp and the it looks like a vine that's climbing up the house. Would that have been more compositionally stronger than showing me the scene as it currently is? How does it look at a different time of year? Is there blossom? Are there plants outside? Things like that as well. The other thing I'd possibly just say to the author, if you can do, or it might be worth learning, especially if you're housebound and self-isolating, is just being able to use the grid tool and kind of the transform and distort tools in Photoshop. And I would just to make the composition a little bit more pleasing, make the verticals vertical. So you can see on the left hand side you've got a slightly converging shutter just because of the curvature of your lens, and I would possibly have just straightened that up as well, and also then the buildings on the right hand side. So the next image that we're going to look at today is The Wheels Fell Off. I liked, first of all, what I did find attractive about this image was kind of the layering as well. I also liked the story. So I can instantly go to the boat. I've then got moving from the gravel to the grass, and then I've got quite a pleasant scene and just a small strip of sky. So the author has made sure that they've lifted the horizon just off centre of the frame. There is cloud detail as well. Like I say, as part of the title, as part of the story, the wheels have fallen off. I can see there two kind of tractor wheels. So yeah, I can see the connection. I did wonder, as part of the scene, whether the author had taken more than one picture of this. I'm finding if you want to push your photography a little bit further, then don't just go and take one picture and think I've got it. Try and take lots of different pictures and then choose, the best when you get home as well. I find the composition quite flat, so even though you have got that layering in the image, would have moved a couple of paces or a couple of meters to the right hand side and added more of a 3D effect for the boat, added something. You could have possibly gone really close into some of these tyres on the right hand side, then had the tyres and the boat. Maybe the lighting wasn't the right way round at that point in time as well. Or even done it from the left hand side and then kind of looked along the boat towards the tyres as well. Just something to possibly think about. It is sharp. There is detail all the way through the file, so there's nothing wrong with your execution. It's just for me wanting to just add a little bit more, making your composition a little bit more dynamic as well. So I want to go back and look at it again. And the third image before we get to the awards is Bulrush Reflections. And let me congratulate the author for trying to think outside of the box. It's amazing how many people go and take pictures of scenes, and we just don't go and take pictures of reflections. A reflection has to be strong enough, or you have to show me enough for me to understand what I'm looking at, and I think I can do as part of this composition as well. What makes it attractive is that we know that the bulrushes don't have bendy stalks like they do, and so as part of that kind of distortion, I think it's worked as part of the water as well. For me, I didn't find, even though it is a reflection, kind of the quality of the file for me really kind of didn't come across as well. The other thing is, yes, I think that you've chosen quite an attractive group. Would it have been possible to have done an even simpler composition? Possibly just having one or two within the frame as well. For me, I'm kind of almost treating this as what I would call kind of a fence picture. So once again, I've already mentioned it today. Moving from the left, and I look at the first bulrush, and I move to the second and the third and the fourth, and they're all very, very similar to each other. And so I just keep moving across the frame, and what I'm probably looking for as part of that composition is just something that's probably a little bit different. Or if you're going to present it as a pattern picture, then kind of make the pattern very, very strong as well. You've probably cropped in fairly tight to make sure that you don't get the banking in or any kind of bits and pieces at the top as well. Definitely worth doing. Reflections, if you've never started to do this before, generally work an awful lot better on kind of buildings and people and things like that. But I still congratulate the author for trying to think outside the box. Also, it doesn't help having quite a small section as well. Unfortunately, I can't give all of the images an award as well. So we come to our first commend, and this one is called Symmetry Humpback Whale Mirrors the Background. And I can see definitely what the author had saw. Congratulations to the author. I'm sure you took lots and lots of pictures to actually get that. I think that you've captured the whale, the humpback whale, coming out of the water just at the peak of the action as well. It's just at the highest point it's going to get before it goes back into the water. I like kind of the flipper as such out of the water, and yes, absolutely, it does mirror the buildings behind. It looks like it's been a kind of very, very contrasty area as well. You've got haze as part of the picture, which I think in some cases actually helps you, because it's made the humpback whale stand out far more than the background, so the two aren't competing with each other. I probably, if it was my image, would have just presented it as a kind of humpback whale instead of having a more kind of a different an art style title, because I think that you've captured the natural behaviour. And also as part of that, even though it is I still think quite a good size in the frame. If you've got enough megapixels, then maybe actually just crop off one of the buildings, so you've just got complete concentration on the whale as that. However, that said, I think, like I say, you've captured natural behaviour in quite difficult conditions as well, and so for me that one gets a commended. And the other one that gets a commended is Splashdown. And I think you've been quite torn really about what to try and capture. So you've wanted to try and fit everything within the frame. So you've wanted the reflection, you've wanted the glass and the strawberry, and yeah, you know, as part of that, I think it's quite a dynamic composition. What obviously means is you've got the horizon, effectively, the edge of the table going through the centre of the image. Does that worry me too much? No, not at all. But once again, you've got movement within a static image. You've got the water coming out as part of your flash setup, your lighting. I think it's been absolutely spot on as well. You've got some highlights on the glass, as you would expect, but also highlights as part of the water. And then obviously, just to make sure, as part of that central focal point, you've got the strawberry. It's red. Whenever you've got anything red within a frame, your eye instantly goes to it, and I still think that it is strong enough as well. I do wonder, you know, as part of doing these kind of setups, and once again, this is another great one to be able to go and try, especially as we're all kind of self-isolating as such, is just to be able to just show me going kind of a closer and almost don't capture the reflection, just go in and just make the strawberry far bigger as well, because for me the real strawberry with the water, it is far more attractive as and kind of a main focal point, so that would just do very well as well without including the reflection. However, that said, that one for me gets a highly commended. And then we come on to the awards, and my first image is Waiting at the Foot of the Slopes, and I liked this for a number of reasons. I like, first of all, the it's been presented as a letterbox format, and I think that's quite suitable for the scene as well. You've got kind of a very limited palette worth of colours, which I think worked, but you've also got an awful lot of red, so skiers obviously wear either red or blue, it appears. I like the red jackets that are kind of dotted around and the red trousers. You've then got a few signs that are in red as well. As part of the composition, it's quite compact within the scene, and there's lots of little kind of cameos going on. So on the right hand side, you've got someone with a set of skis pulling looks like their son on some skis as well. You've got the same thing kind of almost mirrored, balanced on the left hand side as well. And then you've got a young girl with a pink jacket and some red salopettes with it looks like a father doing or mother doing the same thing as well. You've got little groups of people, and you can move between the little cameos quite happily as well. And instead of just having a white background, you've got detail. I like the ski lifts that are just in the distance. You've got different ski lifts going across. You've got some pods. You've got somewhere obviously the legs are dangling out of the bottom as well, and you've got some trees just in the kind of the mist in the snow on the upper left hand side. And I think for me that all fits together. You've weighted it, or you've cropped at kind of just the opportune moment where you haven't got half a ski lift and you haven't got half a person within the frame as well, so all fits quite nicely. And that one for me gets my second place. And my first place, I'm sure we've seen these two gentlemen before, dare I say, but kind of once again, I liked the story that's been put together as part of this, and the images that were presented out of the section, I felt once again that this image was the strongest here. Colour version, slightly subdued colours, but I like that one person is wearing a blue jacket, the other one's wearing a green jacket, and I like that the person's, once again, is kind of smoking a pipe. You can see the smoke that's coming off the pipe, so movement within a static frame. And also kind of the bit of a story as well. They're not just here both holding pistols. One of them's got a bottle of whiskey, Jack Daniels, in their hand as well. And kind of the title, exactly as it says, you know, who drank it, and kind of the person on the left-hand side almost acting like a bit of a Sherlock Holmes, thinking, is it me? Is it somebody else? And yeah, I like the way that it's been put together. Once again, the background as part of the lighting, it's not completely dark. You've got lighting on the background, but there's nothing too... there's nothing burnt out. There's nothing that really kind of catches your eye. Just a pleasant, interesting story with good quality lighting, and so that is my well-deserved first place.